Hi, I'm Randy Horton, Chief Solutions Officer at Orthogonal, coming to you today on second day in the afternoon at the Boston Convention Center for LSX World Congress. You can't make it to every conference out in MedTech, or you certainly can't make it to every conference in MedTech, and even if you can't have a good conversation with every interesting person there. So we're curating a set of interviews, 5 to 7 minutes, with a number of interesting people at these conferences to share some of the best insights with you. So we're here right now with Darwin Shurig from Talent Accelerant. Darwin's someone I've been trying to catch up with for like 3 years, and we did it in the hallway here and grabbed him. So we're at the interview now. Darwin, welcome.
Well, I'm excited that we finally get to have this conversation.
Yeah, there we go. And it's for our millions of viewers, you know, so.
Exactly.
So tell us about Talent Accelerant.
Yes, so my originally company was founded over 10 years ago, and it was Shurig Solutions Incorporated. And there is a process that was created. My goal has always been to change the candidate experience to the benefit of companies, because in my years in corporate America and the things that I've watched doing this for companies, I think too often the candidate experience is
broken?
Not great. Thank you. Broken.
Yeah.
And so that was always my goal. In the first 7 years, I didn't really know how to do that other than to work hard, be transparent, and however, our outcomes have always been really high, and we created this process, which was trademarked as Talent Accelerant. So we use video technology and branding to create a really remarkable candidate experience, a huge differentiator for our partners, and then we turn around and bring those same type of tools, additional areas to vet for culture back to the hiring manager in a system that happens in real time. So they get to see exactly how the candidate would fit the culture as well as the skill sets before they invest the time. And so we're actually building out a SaaS around that to bring to the market. So we'll have two. So the point in telling you this is SSI was rebranded as an entire company to Talent Accelerant about 3 months ago, and that's the reason why.
And when do I get to sign up on this online for the SaaS product and start paying?
So we will have a model product here in the next 4 to 5 weeks. The goal is to be able to roll it out. We'll have an MVP in the fourth quarter that we've got some partners that are going to pilot it, including Quality Means Business, who I'm on the board of, and some other recruitment firms. And then the goal is to bring it out at the beginning of the year, into this year, beginning of the year, to the market.
All right. Well, this is great because, you know, we talk to people about software as a medical device and regulatory, but in your case, pretty much everybody is watching it at some point in their career, or many points, is going to be both a candidate and or
right.
somebody hiring. So tell us first, you start with the candidate point of view. What is the candidate experience? What is different about it with what you do?
Absolutely. And I couldn't have lobbed you had you lob me a softball any better than that, really.
You can pay me the $5 later. It's good.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we call it Talent Accelerant, and the candidate experience and the partner experience. So the candidate experience, if you think about anybody who's been a candidate recently, sort of what that's been like, and anybody who's really good at what they do, they're going to have at least 2 to 3 opportunities, and they're not going to last on the market long. And so this isn't about candidates that are sitting in the resume. This is about the passive candidates and really what I call the top talent, or the A players. So if they talk to 3 recruiters or talent management professionals, internal or external, maybe they understand what the hiring manager really wants in specific skills and their personality and what's going to match, and maybe they don't. Maybe they understand what the product does relevant to patient outcomes, patient access, efficiency in the healthcare system, how that compares to the competition, and maybe they don't. And then they share a job description, which is typically vanilla, doesn't really tell you a whole lot, and amazingly, 30% of the time, from my experience, they're not even correct.
They don't describe the job.
I've had scenarios where I was talking to a VP, asked him about a skill set. This was actually pre-COVID, so video stuff was not happening as often, and asking him about a skill, and he was like, "Why would you ask me about that skill?" I'm like, "Well, it's on your job description." And he was surprised, right? So unfortunately, that's just, that happens way too often. So contrast that with over a decade, our offer acceptance rates average 94%.
Wow.
53% of candidates have accepted an offer, been promoted within 24 months. So they have the skill, they fit the culture, and they're bringing value, and then they're rewarded. And then a third higher retention rates than the industry standard. So people want to know, that talent wants us to know what they're interested in, because we're not going to sell them anything. We're not going to push, it's a partnership. And then instead of that, after we know what they want, or we reach out in the right way, if they're a newer interaction, to be able to share something with them. They say, hey, send over what? The job description and what's the name of that company. And instead they get the Top Talent Accelerant candidate experience where they get this link, open it up. It's all branded to the company. There's all kinds of data points. They get information and get to see a little bit about the hiring manager from a cultural standpoint. They don't have to go out and find this information, and think about how that completely elevates that role versus the other things that they're looking at.
Nice. Nice. So, and when you say for years you did it by working hard, you figured out what to do, but it was manual, and now you figured out how to productize what you know?
So I think the main piece is like recruiting. Like people say, hey, well, how do you find people? And I still get asked that all the time. And respectfully, if you don't know where to fish, if you don't know how to find people in this day and age where you can get data from anywhere, that is a completely different conversation. And if you're internal talent, which it's not a fair comparison, external recruiting firms versus internal, because they just don't have the same resources and oftentimes the same skill set. A lot of times companies take HR backgrounds and try to put them in a recruiting role. It's a hunter-gatherer sort of comparison.
Yeah.
I've always, humbly, I'm good at targeting. I understand it's all about the reverse math if you understand how to target. And so if I reach out to somebody, even if it's not the right role there, it's probably going to be worth our time to have a conversation. So, but from a process standpoint, most people are given a resume, a synopsis of the candidate, and not a whole lot else. We started doing written we call them a questionnaire, so that our hiring manager can see their writing style, get to see, okay, you have experience with, for instance, design history file, remediation. Well, great. You can put that keyword on your resume, and look at what's happening with ChatGTP. There are people that are taking ChatGTP, the job description, customizing their resume, and I've had multiple VPs and people tell me, and then they get an interview, they look great, and they can't really speak to the things that they're trying to vet. So, okay, you have that experience. Give me an example. What was the situation? What's the action you took and the result? And so we've been doing that for the whole decade so that the hiring manager can see kind of the how. And so the resume, the synopsis of what they're looking for, and then that questionnaire kind of gives them a better 360 view to know that that's worth their time.
So it's a richer candidate profile. It's a richer job profile.
Right. So that's what we've been doing. Well, now think about, not only do you have a partner that is going to protect your value prop in the marketplace.
Okay.
Every single person, first of all, very few people are going to get to see it versus a transactional over 10 years, I've never filled a role because somebody applied to a role. It's about that conversation, reaching out.
Humans and relationships.
Exactly. So you are creating experience and you are attracting them in a unique fashion. You have the ability to go get talent and you're branding yourself with every interaction. And then we bring back to the hiring manager videos of the candidate, writing samples. We can do personality profiling in comparison with the hiring manager, as well as references, whatever they want. And my perspective over 25 years between corporate America and doing this over a decade is that a high percentage, maybe 70%, 80% of people that are interviewed should not be interviewed. They don't have the skill set. They're not going to fit the culture, or they were never coming to the company based on the other companies they're interviewing, but there's no process to figure that out without wasting the time and the resources.
On both sides.
So this allows them to see all this before, and if we're good at understanding what they need the person to do, what they're open to do, then we get to go hunt. I get to go do the work and create a really unique experience, and then the process all works in real time so we can very efficiently help them hire for culture. And what does that do? I mean, when you look at cost of mishires, it's huge. Annual voluntary turnover across all industries averages 25%. So that means a fourth of the talent is walking out the door every year. Yeah. And it's usually not the people that you want to do that. So it helps companies be more healthy, profitable.
So let's double click from that down into, or we'll take it from two sides.
Okay.
And maybe this is the best way to take this. I'm hiring in MedTech.
Okay.
What are you seeing right now what are the trends that you're seeing as a result of sort of this richer profile view of the job and of the candidates? What's going on in our industry and how's it reflecting in hiring?
So my experience is it's been I think most people will understand it's been a very difficult last 2 to 3 years. And there were so many different scenarios where companies gave money 2+ years ago. Money it didn't take as long to get the capital. The challenge of getting the capital was not maybe as stringent. And then over the last 1.5 years, 2 years since then, there's not as much money going out, tighter purse strings. Because of some of the failures and challenges, it's also a longer process to get the money. And being a board member on a MedTech company where we kept thinking we had the money. So I've gotten to experience that as a board member as well. So it's been a very challenging market to get money. You look at a lot of failed clinical trials, a lot of layoffs. So the market's been flooded with talent and there's not been as many jobs. So, however, it seems like through LSI, Emerging MedTech, through LSX, and over this year that things are starting to open up. This summer, we're starting to get more jobs. This year it's not just the floodgates have been open per se, but it's opening up, and it seems that over the last 3 to 6 months, companies are getting money. And so I think that the glass is definitely half full. And my hope is that as we move into the end of the year and the beginning of next year, that there are going to be a lot more job opportunities, which is good for
You're
everybody.
optimistic.
I am.
That's good for all of us. So in terms of soft skills and culture and hard skills, what's different than what companies who are hiring right now are looking at than 3-4 years ago?
That's an interesting question. So first, I just don't think that most companies, and it's hard for everybody. Hiring is a very challenging problem. Hiring for culture, it's kind of like the mission statement, the vision statement. You can't have a mission or a vision statement that like you write it out once, stick it in a drawer, kind of like the design history file.
Right.
So
You have to live it.
Right. And if you look at FDA warning letters, a lot of those warning letters relevant to like acquisitions come because the company acquires, and that company they acquired hadn't really reevaluated their design history file for 3 years or more. So in the same way, understanding what your mission is, and it should be spoken regularly, it should be a part of the interview process, and understanding what the candidate's personal why is. Leadership IQ had data that was really interesting, showing that 89% of mishires, only 11% was because they didn't have the skill that you were actually trying, that they were going to do. 89% was because they had low emotional intelligence.
Right.
They didn't play well in the sandbox.
There was a CEO in Chicago who once said to me that the big problem we have is we hire people for hard skills and then we fire them for soft skills.
No, that's absolutely right. So you can have somebody that's a 12 out of 10 in skills. However, if they're the smartest person in the room, they don't play well with others, and they're not excited about the product, you shouldn't hire them, because a great culture, a culture where there's employee engagement, if we're 30%, if we're positive, we're 30% more likely to problem solve. You're going to have higher employee engagement. And so having a process that delineates between the technical skill and whatever the functional area is and the cultural fit, I think is vitally important.
And do you think the MedTech employers and MedTech professionals are both getting more sophisticated at being able to articulate their why or their mission?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I think there's a lot of opportunities to improve there. And I think take AI for example, and I'll give you an example. AI has the opportunity to create a lot of impressive operational efficiency. At the same time, it can cause a lot of challenges too. And I posted an article about 2 months ago where certain companies are using AI robots to do the first interview. So people are taking time off work, they're dressing up to talk to a robot, and there were glitches, and people were very angry. How does that what does that do to their value prop?
Don't they just start sending robots to do the interview for them? So my robot will talk to your robot?
You know what? Maybe that's what comes next. But I think the more we take the humanity out of things, the more transactional things are. Transaction in, transaction out. If you put junk into your quality management system, you do you work on testing and software development for SAMD. If you're not having strong inputs and you're not doing your regression testing, you're going to get junk on the back end, right? So it's the same concept.
So measure, have a why, whether you're hiring or being hired, have a why, articulate a mission, know why you're doing things and what's important to you before you get to the hard skills. And then it sounds like from a software as a service perspective, if you're going to automate something, automate humanity.
Well, my hope, I truly believe that Top Talent Accelerant can be the industry standard for attraction and efficiency to help companies hire for culture. And AI can do a lot of great things, but you still need to have a person. One of the ways that I explain it is that, it's not a CRM. It's not a lot of ATSs and companies use are really HR and legal focused. Mm-hmm. They're clunky, typically.
They're there for compliance. They're not for the value of the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is about the candidate experience and the hiring manager experience and doing it in an efficient manner and in a way that you're going to be able to attract talent, vet the cultural fit. And also it makes it easier for the hiring manager because they're not wasting as much time. And you and I both know that most people are not trained on how to hire, on how to interview. And when you have to do interviews, I know for me, when I was in corporate America, it was very frustrating because you're already working all these hours and now you have to interview people. And if you don't have a process and the candidates don't match, you feel like you're wasting time, which creates frustration. I just think it's really important to be mission and vision driven. If you look at why companies succeed and fail, there's maybe 12 key areas over decades and industries and data. But to me, it really comes down to leadership, relevant to mission and vision, has to be driven top down, and it creates either alignment or misalignment. And then if you look at talent, whether it's, for example, failed clinical trials, submissions that are not approved, that are delay time to market, or FDA warning letters, all the data shows it comes to having the wrong talent, misinterpretation of guidelines or fraud and things like that. So if you can hire people that have the skill and they match the culture, they're more excited about it, you're going to have people that come together better and most likely going to be able to have a better opportunity to get across the finish line.
Well, that's a lot to digest, but thanks for stopping by today and catching up. Good luck. When will people be able to start licensing your service?
So our goal is in the next 6 weeks to have a product that we can show, like at the conference that is actually ours. And then we will have an MVP by the mid-fourth quarter. And the goal is to bring it to market at the beginning of the year.
Excellent. And when are you doing your PMA on your system?
Luckily, there's no PMA.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah,
take care.
Absolutely.